American Water Polo.
Hi, this is Damon Newman from American Water Polo, and we're here today with Colleen Lischwe from McKendree University to better understand the recruiting college process in general and also at McKendree. How you doing, Colleen?
I'm good, Damon. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We're hanging in there. It's a pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah, you as
Um,
well.
Great. So tell me a little bit about yourself and about McKendree.
Sure. So, my name is Colleen Lischwe. I am the head coach of both the men's and women's programs at McKendree University. We are a Division II liberal arts school. Lucky enough to have been a program for the past 4 years now, and we're kind of slowly building. We also have a men's club team, so I have the opportunity to coach a range of skills, experience levels. And really kind of I've been really lucky to have some great doors open up for me in the water polo world, especially in the Midwest, to bring people to us and kind of spread the sport. And being from the Midwest myself, I'm from the St. Louis area. It's really cool to see the sport growing in my hometown area. So I've really enjoyed the opportunity of being here and building and teaching, McKendree about the sport as we go.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I would be remiss. So you work with the women, you work with the men, you also work with the club side.
Correct.
So you got your hands in like all water polo, every aspect of water polo McKendree.
Yeah, man. I mean, I coach club too, and so I
Right.
there are days where I have 6, 8 hours of practices, and again, I feel really lucky to go to work and do something that I actually enjoy doing. I'm not sitting in a cubicle all day. I'm getting to share the love of my sport, so that's really nice. But yes, my days are very long. We spend a lot of time on the pool deck.
Well, it sounds like you were really passionate about it. I guess, but can you tell me like what's the difference? There's not every day that that a female is also coaching on the men's side. I mean,
Yeah.
I would be remiss to not, I guess, ask you about that. Like, what's that experience been for you? And then
You
that,
know, that's a question that I got a lot.
right?
Last year being my first year with the men and being the sole female coaching a men's collegiate varsity polo team.
Which
Um,
is awesome.
yeah, yeah, it's
It's a
cool.
shame
And
there's a shame that it's not more common. And
yeah,
then I think
yeah,
that's
yeah. I think it's great that Mount St. Mary's just hired a
right.
female to coach both programs, and I think Alyssa will do a really great job there. But in all honesty, I thought about this question a lot because I've had the question a lot. I grew up playing with boys. There's no girls' high school water polo. So playing and coaching guys is pretty natural to me. And I honestly think that, having learned to play the sport, playing with guys, the the style of play, the speed of play, maybe comes even a little bit more natural to me. I played in college, played with women in college, played with women through the ODP pipeline, but having the opportunity to coach the men feels really kind of like coming home, and it's where I
Right.
started the sport, and I really enjoy having the opportunity to continue coaching. And I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter what gender I am or what gender I am coaching. I really love the sport, and so that's not going to change anything for
Right.
me. Hasn't changed anything for my athletes yet either, so
That's
that's good.
great. That's great. So take me through a little bit of like what does the recruiting process look like?
Yeah. We spend a lot of time recruiting, like pretty much any other coach of any other sport at the collegiate level. This is something we do daily, and it's how we build our program and build our culture on top of that. So we spend a lot of time on it, and our priority is really, become finding athletes with the same mindset and drive to add to that team culture. And because we are relatively new, this will be our first year graduating our 4-year athletes. And so it'll be really cool to see the base that those athletes have built and what stays and what goes as a part of our culture as those guys kind of graduate. But we're always looking for athletes that fit within the Bearcat culture. We're also looking into play styles, different skills. We try and explore all avenues of to build a smarter, more aware, grittier team that's willing to grind kind of on the daily. So we have a prospective student athlete form on our website that athletes can pull up pretty quickly while they're doing, their research on the team and shoot it over to me so I can see who is interested firsthand. We do a lot of traveling, West Coast, East Coast, staying in the Midwest as well, so that we are seeing as many of those play styles as possible, learning as much as we can about the athletes that we want to join our program. But also, being you're a student first, you're a student athlete. So we spend a lot of time talking on grades. We spend a lot of time ensuring that the academic programs that we have at McKendree are going to align with just exactly what the student athlete wants. We try and make it work as much as possible, but we also contact a lot of coaches, club and high school coaches, to see, what is the student athlete like? Are they going to fit in well? Do you have any struggles with them? What have you enjoyed about them as you've coached them and moving forward? And that's, kind of all combined. We try to find, really take advantage of all the methods that are in front of us to find, future Bearcats.
Right. That's excellent. So obviously it's a full body scope on the student athlete and what you're looking for and fit into that Bearcat, that mentality and developing a team that, is gritty and a team that's, built on good character, obviously good, academic base first as well.
Right.
So tell me a little bit, so for you, do you find, when are the recruits contacting you? Is it something where, they're reaching out to you freshman and sophomore year, or do you feel like you get a lot of contact from athletes, during their junior year? Or what's that common for you?
Sure. So the NC2A has a handful of recruiting rules, obviously. Right. So I always try and tell, anytime I'm giving a college talk or, speaking with my club athletes or high school athletes, whatever, I always tell them, man, you got to start early. It's a grueling process and you have to make a really big decision. I mean, the next 4 years of your life, your job, and playing polo are, all things that are clearly important to the athlete, the student looking into colleges. And so the earlier you start, the easier it is, I think, to kind of narrow down that list, figure out what exactly you want. But number one, I started with rules. I have to bring it up again. You have to familiarize yourself with NC2A rules. Division II level, we are able to have, email and phone conversations beginning June 15th after this athlete's sophomore year ends, prior to their junior year. They can start taking visits September 1st after their sophomore year. So a lot of times I start hearing from athletes towards the end of their junior year, middle of their junior year, but there are athletes that are on my radar much sooner, whether I've seen them play at tournaments or I've gotten a PSA form from them, but maybe can't contact them quite yet. You have to do your research, narrow down as you go, and kind of, I truly believe that the earlier you start, the easier it will be to find a school that fits with your needs, and you're not kind of rushing to be proactive at the very end of the process.
Right. That's really good. That's good advice to have to start early, as well as have a good understanding of, we both have looked at the NCAA rule book. So, as a former coach myself, you look at 14 chapters and you're like, all right, well, actually probably 3 or 4 are only really relative to me. So, but it is good to have a prospective student athlete to have an understanding of, okay, coach can't call me, until X, Y, and Z. There are dead periods and all those types of things that I think are pretty readily available. To memorize that thing would be a tall task, right?
Yeah.
What would you recommend an athlete? So say an athlete is preparing, maybe to come on a recruiting visit or to get on a phone call with you. How do you recommend they prepare?
Absolutely. So typically if an athlete's going to come on a visit, we have had pretty extensive conversations
Right.
to this point. So I know them pretty well. And, I kind of have an idea of how they might fit in. And I'm really looking forward to that athlete getting to know my athletes and the team in general, the campus life. And so, in that part, when I ask for preparations or ask the athlete to prepare, usually it's, hey, what can I help you with ahead of your visit? I'm going to pass you on to your potential future teammates. And they are going to answer a lot of your questions, and they're going to show you what life is like. And we'll have a meeting here at the end. I'll show you around. But I think that the phone call is where all of that getting to know the student athlete and the coach starts. We know that they are nerve-wracking, and it's very anxiety ridden for a lot of people to pick up the phone and dial someone that maybe they don't know very well. They have lots of questions. They're trying to impress them. So just kind of relax, stay calm. Don't let it be an anxiety-inducing situation for you. I always recommend that you make a list of questions after you've done your research about the school and about the team. I very frequently get questions that could be answered just by clicking on the McKendree website or our athletics website. So, doing some research, talking to mom and dad and seeing what kind of questions they have, making that list so they don't leave your brain when you start that kind of nerve-wracking conversation. But again, like I said, relax, keep it calm. We just want to get to know you. We want to know your goals, kind of, what you want to do in the water, what you want to do out of the water. And honestly, I'm asking about prom. I'm asking about your pets, what you did on the weekend, what book you're reading right now, other things that will let me get to know you and find you a place on the team. Because really this is all preparation. You're finding the team that works best for you, and I'm finding the athletes that are going to work best for us. And so all of that kind of plays in, but it should be relaxing, not overly formal. And as long as you're prepared, pretty simple.
Right. Yeah. So, with this COVID-19 outbreak, and there are some potential for some, tournaments to, hopefully not, but, there might be less recruiting opportunity and less opportunity for athletes to get, to a larger tournament. How would you suggest the PSA, be seen?
Ooh, that's a great question. So being from the Midwest, I have firsthand experience of not having a lot of opportunity, very central to me.
Right.
This is a slightly different circumstance because we don't have a pool to get into. We don't have teams to play with right now. But we're all students of the sport, and we all have this really great opportunity right now that, while we're not in school and we're not in the pool and we don't have the opportunity to hang out with friends as much, we do have so many resources right in front of us to kind of do some development on our own, whether it's mental skills or watching games or, using all of these apps that have come forward, 6-8 Sports app, things like that will keep you in shape, keep your mind on the sport, and allow you to keep learning, even though you're not in the water. I think that our sport is really a simple sport, and it's about doing these technical skills, these simple skills better than athletes on your opposing team. And that's what makes it really difficult. And so if you can build knowledge and awareness about those skills that you're going to need to do when you get back in the water, and then maintain, I think you're in really good shape. Everybody is in the same boat right now, and that is we're not in a pool. So it's going to be really interesting to see how athletes have taken it upon themselves to stay in shape and continue working to be recruited in the future, because we don't know what's going to happen. So small steps, but
It is very true. It's we're all the athletes they're on a very even playing field right now, being out of the pool and things like that. I think that's something that's very, very poignant. So when an athlete does, like, say an athlete's in a junior year, they playing for a number of years, they have some, game footage or a highlight reel. How would you suggest, what's more beneficial for you, for
So
them to deliver, their skills?
that's a great question. One that I get very frequently. I would much prefer to watch just some straight film. I don't need a highlight reel. I even accept, if mom or dad in the stands is filming on their cell phone and it's texted over to me, it doesn't need to be pretty as long as I know what number you are, what color cap you're wearing. I will watch pretty much anything that is sent to me. I have no problem really with a highlight reel either, but I much prefer to see a full game sequence so that we can see what you do really well, but also what you might need some work on. Again, going back to the fact that this whole recruiting process is preparation for myself and for the athlete. I want to know what we need to work on a little bit more to bring us to that next level, and not just, wow, that backhand that you take is really nice, or you can turn a player really, really well 7 times on your highlight reel. I want to see all of it. How you pass, how you communicate. When I'm watching a game in person, I look at the bench a lot as well. So I can see how you interact, your body language, things like that. And I think that having the opportunity to see a full game lets you see some more of that body language, and you're interacting with your teammates, opponents, officials, coaches, things like that as well. So some film is better than no film. If you don't have opportunities for film, send us some old film. Set up a camera at practice and send us some of your skill work. Your coach will film you. And if anybody that wants to help you and progress you in your water polo career will help you get some film. But like I said, a practice film or some sort of full game, half, quarter, is really what I think is best.
Excellent. So, you talked a little bit about, in the beginning, you had kind of talked about, your reach in terms of you being in the Midwest. You get up to Chicago, you get to California, you talk about maybe the East Coast as well. In a traditional year, where do you do most of your off-campus recruiting?
Great question. Junior Olympics is probably our biggest recruiting opportunity, between the meet and greet and a full week's worth of polo on both the boys and girls side. I have the opportunity to see a lot of water polo from a lot of different parts of the country in a very quick period of time. So I do rely on Junior Olympics a lot, but I also am well aware of the fact that not every club or athlete has the opportunity to make it out to that tournament, whether they didn't qualify or they don't have a team in general. So I spend a lot of time going to camps and clinics. I've done the Pittsburgh Combine. I've done Browns Camp. I do a Chicago showcase every year in Illinois. So I try and bounce around to other tournaments, maybe outside of California, as much as I can, as well as those camps and clinics. And camps and clinics are great as well when you get to be on the coaching staff, because you can see how the athlete will be coached. You're not just watching them play. So we do a lot of that. Obviously, JO quals. But Junior Olympics is a big one.
Yeah, it's such a, you really can't, and there's so many games, and like you said, you probably watch so much water polo in what is it, 20 days, less than 20 days,
20 days, yeah, it's really quick, and it's exhausting. So I always try and still request more film after the fact, or go see some of those kids at other tournaments that I can get myself to once JO is over and the recruiting process is a little bit deeper. But when you're coaching the men's season in the fall, the women's season in the spring, it doesn't leave a lot of room for travel during the school year, and so I do have to rely on the summer months a lot to get a lot of the recruiting done.
Right, and you coach the men, women, and also the club team as well. So it's you are on deck a lot, as well as recruiting as much as you can.
Yeah.
when you're not, actually working with your student athletes. So
Yes, exactly. I'm lucky to have an assistant. I'm lucky that he kind of has taken over the role as our club team head coach, and he's super, super helpful. And I know that not everybody has that opportunity, but there's a lot of water polo to be seen, and we try and see as much of it as we can.
Awesome. So you talked a little about, and it was kind of like built in my next question, but you pretty much, I think, nailed that on the head. Is it, if someone didn't have an opportunity to go to a JOs and didn't go to doesn't go to a large club that might get some of the exposure, somebody who's like maybe a less exposed athlete who's really passionate about playing college water polo, whether that's at McKendree or, maybe that's a club team or how do they, what would you go about doing? How would you recommend them doing?
You have to be proactive. Thinking of my own kind of college search a long time ago, I waited for coaches to reach out to me. And while I was lucky enough to have a handful of coaches reach out to me and a lot of different schools to weigh, I didn't really look into schools on my own. And so naturally, my field was narrowed from all these schools to the coaches that contacted me and wanted me to play for them. So I think being proactive is number one, putting yourself out there, writing professional, well-written, not copy and pasted emails to coaches, being open-minded. We're not all going to play Division I. We're not all going to go out to California. We might go to the East Coast. We might be in the Midwest. And you have to be open-minded about that. I think something that is really missing from the recruiting process at the high school level is support and realistic feedback from, club and high school coaches. It's not necessarily about, ooh, I sent this kid to Stanford and our club produced a Stanford athlete. It's, helping athletes find a university and a team that is going to be best suited for their skill set, for their ability to develop and to move forward. So, like I said, being proactive, being realistic, honest, and open with yourself and your needs is going to be super important. But I also think, on completely different note, if you don't have a big club that you can travel with and be a part of, you have to join something like ODP. You have to put yourself out there to be seen by more coaches. You have to put yourself out there and maybe, make a sacrifice or two to travel a little bit in order to be seen and to get yourself on the radar of some coaches. But lots of us are looking for those people too. We want a diamond in the rough every once in a while.
Right. And you cast a wide net, right?
Yep.
That's the not recruiting is essentially, it's obviously at certain universities it's different. You're picking and choosing, but elsewhere it's you're casting a wide net. You are you're evaluating as many people as reach out to you as possible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you being proactive, I think, is a huge piece of advice for athletes. Being proactive, put yourself out there, and go after it.
Yeah, be professional, make a really nice resume. Let us know about yourself in the classroom. Let us know about yourself in the pool. Let us know about yourself, when you're not in the classroom, when you're not in the pool, your extracurriculars, your goals, things like that. We want your swim times. We want to know as much as we can about you as possible so that we can find the right place for you on our team. And if a certain school isn't right for you, help you find a school that is. So I really think that being proactive, being professional, doing the research is, whether you have lots of opportunities in front of you or not, it's the only way that you're going to find a school that is the best suited for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. What's life like for a student athlete at McKendree?
Yeah, so we have a pretty busy schedule between practices, meetings, classes, travel, all of that good stuff. We come pretty close to the NC2A limit of 20 hours a week when we are in season. We have a staggered practice time so that we can allow for fewer class conflicts. Again, student first. So Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, we have an afternoon practice so the athletes can kind of wake up, take some early classes if they want to, get themselves to labs, which at McKendree happen a little bit earlier in the day, have some time for lunch, treatment, then we're in the pool for a couple hours midday, and then they can go back to, regular life, classes, homework, hanging out, jobs afterwards. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we start very early. We do a 6 a.m. practice. We go till about 8. There's time for treatment, a quick breakfast, then we go and lift. After that lift, they have the full day for classes, homework, hanging out, napping. We do a study hall on these days as well. And we try and work all of our, any meetings, film study, any crucial information into those time periods as much as possible so that the athletes can plan accordingly. I talk a lot about positive habit formation, communication, establishing a routine that is going to work best for you, so that it works best for the team as well. So they do keep themselves very busy, and I keep them very busy. Their professors keep them very busy, especially when we travel. Again, being in the Midwest where we don't have tons of teams right near us, we travel both West Coast and East Coast very frequently. So Fridays are usually a travel day, Saturdays and Sundays games, and then we come back, have a recovery day usually on Mondays, and then start fresh again. So very busy, lots going on. Time management is certainly something that we work on balancing on the regular, but I think that playing Division II polo really allows athletes for a high level of polo. You can build your skill. You see your coach very frequently. We get to spend time with them in the off season on some D3 schools, on some club schools. We have about 8 hours each week to spend with them, but then they also get time to be a traditional college student in the off season. They're still training, they're still working out, they're still a student of our sport, but they can join a club or, maybe some other club sport, a team that they want to join, debate, whatever it is. It leaves you kind of the opportunity to have those other experiences as well while you're still playing at a high level. So they're busy, but I hope they like it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, overview of what life is like for an athlete at McKendree, and
Yeah.
seems like they have a pretty good balance of water polo and the academic, and then obviously, the social piece and the college experience, right?
Right.
Because I think that's obviously it's a part of the experience.
Absolutely. And we try and fit it all in. And there are some days, weeks, months that maybe are, harder or more frustrating for the coaches or for the athletes, maybe missing out on a holiday because of practice or a tournament or something like that, or spring break, which can always feel maybe like a bummer, but we have an opportunity that very, very few people get, and that's to play a collegiate sport at a high level. And I think that those sacrifices really kind of balance out or are made much, much more worth it by the rare opportunities that we get that lots of people don't have.
Yeah, I would say that's really accurate. You play Division I water polo as well as I, so we both have a really good understanding of sacrifices and that. It's a very special time, so I think that's important.
Yeah.
Cool. One final thing, if an athlete is interested in McKendree, what should they do? What's the next step for them?
Absolutely. Reach out to me, call me, text me, email me. All of my information is on our website, and I'd be happy to, pass it on to anybody that needs it. But I want to help with the recruiting process. I want to help with your college search. Once we get our conversation going, I'll ask you some questions, you'll ask me some questions, and ideally we work through the application process together. I try and check in with athletes on a bi-weekly basis without overwhelming them, just to make sure that they have all of the questions answered that, might come up during the process, that mom and dad have all of their questions answered. Oftentimes a 17-year-old's questions about college are going to be a lot different than a parent's questions about college. So I try and answer all of that, willing to talk to parents as much as necessary. But as we start talking more and more, I start to rely on the student athlete to, make those decisions be a little bit more independent. But yeah, if you are interested in McKendree, we'll find a spot for you. We're very, very lucky to have the roster sizes that we have. We're lucky to have the club team. We're lucky to have the varsity teams. So reach out, ask me questions, throw me a curveball. Let me see how I can find a way to get you what you want out of your college experience in the water and out of the water. But I'm always jumping the gun to talk water polo and build the team. And so yeah, reaching out is the first thing that you need to do, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Excellent. Hey, Colleen, this is Colleen Lischwe from McKendree. It's been a pleasure, sitting down and chatting with you. I'm Damon Newman from American Water Polo. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and our website, americanwaterpolo.org. And remember, it's important to stay connected to what's important to you.